Chapter 32 Rock. James and Dana kept going until past midnight. Hewitt had apparently conducted a thorough investigation, with the help of personal contacts inside MI5 and the CIA. He seemed to have uncovered most of the truth behind the disastrous Aero City mission. Lord Hilton's son, Sebastian, had run Hilton Aerospace's Russian operations until 1998, when he had left the company to begin a career in politics. During this time, Dennis Oberdon had gathered some dirt on Sebastian Hilton. When Lord Hilton said he was going to stop funding the ceramic engine research, Oberdon had blackmailed him, threatening to ruin his son's budding political career, unless... None of the paperwork said what Oberdon's hold over Sebastian Hilton was, or what Oberdon had asked of Lord Hilton in return for his silence. But it was clear that instead of coughing up, recently appointed Junior Intelligence Minister Sebastian Hilton had used a combination of his father's money and his ministerial power to have Oberdon killed. He'd set Boris and Isla up on a legitimate mission in Aero City, and then paid them $100,000 to kill Dennis. Apparently, a couple of other people who knew or suspected the truth, such as the scientist and Lord Hilton's retired personal assistant, had also been eliminated. Sebastian Hilton assumed that he'd be able to use his connections inside MI5 to keep a lid on his dodgy dealings. Unfortunately, as the junior intelligence minister, he'd never been told about the existence of Cherub, and neither had Boris or Isla. They received a nasty shock when senior MI5 and Cherub officials reviewed the slow progress of Boris and Isla's mission and decided to send a Cherub agent in to help them unearth the truth about Dennis Oberdon's illegal arms sales. James's presence was a worry, but not enough to knock Sebastian Hilton or Boris and Isla off their stride. Their plans stayed the same. Boris and Isla would murder Dennis Oberdon, then escape Aero City and claim that they had killed him in self-defense following a violent argument. The fact that James would most likely be captured, tortured, and killed by Vladimir Oberdon concerned them so little that they hadn't even bothered to think up an excuse for him to get out of town on the night of the murder. After the killing, Boris and Isla would have returned to Britain and pocketed Lord Hilton's money. Following a short investigation in which Boris and Isla would have been the only credible witnesses, James's death would be written off as a side effect of a mission that went tragically wrong. Fortunately for James, Sebastian Hilton had miscalculated. Boris and Isla had been killed, while James had escaped. Worse, nobody within MI5 had known that there was a CIA team working in Aero City, who had not only worked out that Boris, Isla, and James were agents for British intelligence, but obtained clear video evidence showing Dennis Oberdon being murdered in cold blood. James was relieved to finally know the truth, at least most of it, but he still had a queasy feeling in his gut. Hewitt had known the facts for several days, some for as long as a week. But he'd kept him in the dark and even gone so far as to warn him that his Cherub career might be over. James was right at the bottom of his stack when he came to a final batch of Hewitt's handwritten notes. "Appointments!" James yelled, with the kind of euphoria that can only come after 4 brain-numbing hours of speed reading. "What's up, Doc?" Dana asked. "The most important piece of paper would be right at the bottom, wouldn't it?" James said, as he held it out for Dana to see. "Remember the 2 people on that list who weren't dead? It looks like Hewitt has appointments with both of them tomorrow. The first one is at 9:30 with our journalist friend Jason McLeod. Then he's going to lunch with the mysterious Sarah Thomas." "So now we know where he's going," Dana said. "But we still don't know what he's up to. This looks like a pretty thorough investigation for a man staging a cover-up, though." I agree, James said. But I've been getting stick from half the kids on campus. I've been lying awake every night feeling sick to my stomach, and all because Hewitt hasn't had the decency to tell me that he knows I'm innocent. There's got to be something fishy going on. It's certainly freaky, Dana nodded. But what does Hewitt stand to gain? Money, I guess, James shrugged. The Hiltons are billionaires, and Sebastian could end up becoming intelligence minister, maybe even prime minister someday. If Hewitt helps the Hiltons out, his lifestyle could become a lot more pleasant. And you think Zara's in on it too? James wasn't comfortable with that aspect of the situation. Zara had always been one of his favourite people on campus. Dunno, he said. Maybe. But for all we know, Hewitt's planning to up and run off with a stripper or something. On the other hand, maybe he's just being cautious and waiting until he's completely sure about his facts. But why lie to me? James insisted. The video evidence clears me 100%. Why make me go through an extra week of torture? I've never liked Hewitt, and I'm prepared to bet my right nut that he's up to something. There's only one way we can really be sure, Dana said. What's that? We know where Hewitt's going to be at 9:30 tomorrow morning. We can follow him around and see what he's up to and who he's working with. That's risky, James said warily. Dana laughed as she looked around the room at the piles of top-secret documents. And this isn't? McLeod's house is only about an hour's drive from here. I'll go and put the papers back in mission preparation now. If anyone stops me, I'll say that I lost a ring when I was cleaning earlier. We'll grab a few hours sleep, then we'll get up early, sneak down to reception, nab some equipment, and steal the keys to one of the pool cars. I can hardly believe you're prepared to go out on a limb for me, Dana. James smiled. I've got a girlfriend 2 doors down the hall. I begged her for help, and she spent the night watching soaps instead. A friend in need, Dana smiled back. Besides, you're a nice guy, James. And I don't just mean nice. I mean, nice. James was suddenly aware that Dana was standing close. She'd spent the whole night helping him, taking a massive risk in return for nothing, and now she was saying that she was attracted to him. The circumstances would have made it hard not to kiss Dana if she'd been a three-eyed monster with pickled onion breath. But she wasn't. James had always been attracted to her, but he'd never acted on it, or even really thought about it. He'd been going out with Kerry since before he'd got to know Dana. And besides, Dana was an older girl. Boys on campus usually hit on girls their own age, or younger. I've always thought you had fantastic eyes, James said as he stared into them. Dana was nearly 2 years older than Kerry. Taller, bulkier, curvier. She had hair that was kind of crazy because she never combed it, but somehow that made it even sexier. Most importantly, 2 years older meant that she was much more likely to want to have sex, a prospect that gave James a rush akin to having the Queen's Golden Jubilee fireworks going off in his boxes. Mind the papers, Dana mumbled as James gave her an experimental kiss on the cheek. The bed was off limits, so Dana walked backwards, frantically snogging James as she collapsed onto the small sofa by the door. I fancied you for ages, Dana said, coming up for air as James felt her hand slide down the back of his jeans. Can I touch your tits? Dana laughed. Oh, you're subtle, aren't you? Dana rolled off, and James thought he'd blown it. but she'd only backed away so that she had room to pull her t-shirt over her head. James took his off too. "What do I get in return for the bra?" Dana teased. "Name your price." James grinned. "No charge." James couldn't believe his luck. It had taken months to get this far with Kerry. He could hardly breathe and practically had drool coming out the corner of his mouth. Then someone knocked at the door. "Oh, bloody hell!" Dana gasped as she batted James's hand away. "Door's been locked all night," James whispered. "Just keep quiet for a sec and they'll think I'm out." Dana smiled as James made a complete hash of undoing her bra. "Wakey, wakey!" Lauren shouted as she burst through the door. She'd showered at a police station and wore a policewoman's black pullover. "Get your bride and rock here!" James had finally triumphed over the bra and sprung up with it in his hand as Dana quickly snatched her t-shirt off the carpet. "You told me it was locked!" Dana hissed. "Didn't you lock it when you came back with the coffees?" As Dana pulled her t-shirt back on, James realized that he had a big problem. "You dirty, stinking, cheating louse!" Lauren snarled as she brandished the bright pink stick of rock under her brother's nose. "I was going to give you this, but now I'm tempted to shove it up your ass!" "I can explain," James said weakly. "Oh, let me guess," Lauren sneered. "You were just sitting there when your t-shirts flew off over your heads and Dana's bra dropped into your hand." "You're not going to tell Kerry, are you?" "Too bloody right I am. I gave you an ultimatum, James. Kerry's my friend too, and I'm not going to sit back and let you treat her like dirt." James looked uneasily at Dana and decided to play for time. "We're obviously going to have to talk this through, and I'll be honest with Kerry, I swear to God. But she'll be upset. We've got to break this to her gently." "How long have you been carrying on with her for?" Lauren demanded. "About 5 minutes," James said. "Oh, yeah, James, and the other one's got bells on." James was disturbed by Lauren's face. For some reason, she'd started looking more upset than angry. "James is telling the truth," Dana said calmly. "We've been working on his problem with the investigation. We're both tired, and we just got carried away." "You're such a pig, James," Lauren sniffed. James could see what he'd done to make Lauren angry, but he was baffled by her crying. "What's the matter?" "Enjoy your rock," Lauren sobbed as she held the pink stick out to James. James took it, but Lauren started crying much harder as she backed out of the room and set off down the corridor. "What's that all about?" Dana asked. "Lauren never struck me as the jealous type." "I don't think she is," James said. "There's more to that than me snogging you. I'd better go after her." Dana nodded as she took her bra back. James was annoyed that he hadn't even managed a glimpse of Dana's goodies before Lauren burst in, let alone a feel. But he had too much other stuff on his mind to get wound up over it. Lauren was acting weird. She was planning to tell Kerry, and he still didn't know exactly what Hewitt was playing at. "I'll go put the papers back in Hewitt's office," Dana said, as James headed for the door. James smiled before giving Dana a quick kiss. "You've been fantastic." "Fun's only just starting," she grinned. Lauren had already reached the staircase by the time James began running after her. "Wait up," he shouted, but not so loud that it woke up the other cherubs sleeping in their rooms. Lauren didn't try to run when she heard James coming, but she didn't stop either. He eventually cornered her on the landing between the 7th and 8th floors. "Leave me alone," Lauren sobbed. "I want to go to bed." "You can talk to me about anything, you know," James said, as he moved in to try giving his sister a hug, but she backed into a corner and adopted a fighting stance. "You're an animal," Lauren spat. "Don't touch me." "Me and Kerry, you know it's never been perfect between us." "You use girls," Lauren growled. "Sex is like eating chips or taking a dump to you. To all boys. You don't care how it happens or who gets hurt, just as long as you get plenty of it." "Come off it. First of all, I'm not getting any. And second, the only person in the world I love more than Kerry is you." Lauren smiled grudgingly, before breaking out in fresh sobs. "I ended up in this room," she sniffed. "It was so horrible. They kept the girls locked up and it made me sick thinking about what had happened to them. Then this man came in and told me to get undressed." "Oh, God," James said, completely shocked. I had no idea. Oh, shit. I'm really, really sorry." "I don't mean that, James. The bloke didn't get his hands on me, but I stabbed him and he's on life support. I hate his perverted guts, but I still don't want him to die." Lauren finally let James close enough to touch her, and he pulled her into a tight cuddle. "You're safe now," James said soothingly. "I wanted to speak to you when I arrived back," Lauren sobbed. "But then I saw you with your eyes practically out on stalks and Dana's boobs in your face. It made me want to puke my guts up. Like you were one of them." "I can't help liking girls, Lauren. Sometimes girls are all I can think about. But there's a massive difference between getting off with Dana and trying to rape someone." "It just seemed," Lauren said, but couldn't finish her thought. "I came to see you because I didn't feel like going to sleep. I thought you'd probably be annoyed if I woke you up. But when I walked in and saw that..." "We didn't stop because we thought the door was locked." "So what's with all those papers in your room?" "It's to do with Hewitt's investigation," James explained. "But don't worry about that now. Do you want me to come up to your room and sit with you for a while? Or you can come back down and sleep in my room." "Nah, I'll be okay," Lauren shrugged. "By the time I climb into bed, I'll probably be so knackered that I'll just keel over." "If you're sure," James said, as he gently rubbed Lauren's back. "Good night." "And you're going to own up to Kerry first thing in the morning, aren't you?" "Lauren, I can't." Lauren's tone stiffened as she put her foot on the first step. "If you don't tell Kerry about Dana, I'm telling her about all the other girls. It's for your own good, James." "Please, Lauren," James begged. "She'll kick my ass. How exactly is that good for me?" "You're my brother, and that counts for a lot. But that doesn't mean I'm going to let you go on making a fool of Kerry." "Whatever," James huffed. "You can bring me grapes in the hospital.